Lamed Amud Aleph. We're going to start. The line starts with Mitamne. It's the last word in the line. Kitanoi Chanech Lenar. The Gemara says Kitanoi. It's a machlekes Tanoim. Based, the pasuk says Chanech Lenar al pi darka. You have to train a child the way he should go. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nechemia. This is a machlekes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nechemia. Chad Omar. They disagree about the age in which the pasuk is instructing the parent to educate the child. So what age is this from? So Chad Amar 1 says this is from Meshitzer Vad Esrim V'Tartin. This is from 16 until 22. Chad Amar, and somebody else says Metamne Sri Va'ad Esrim Arba. This is from 18 until 24. In other words, the machlekes between the correct age for marriage and the machlekes about educating a child are the same. As while the father still has a large measure of influence over the son, so he has to teach him and to find the shidduch. Now the Gemara continues to discuss a father's obligation to teach his son Teda. So the Gemara, to what extent is a person obligated to teach his son Teda? He says, this is like one should try to emulate, he should try to educate his child like Zvulun ben Don. That his grandfather taught him psukim, mishnayos, Talmud, halachas, and agadis. Meisvei, so they challenged this question from a brisa. The brisa says limdei mikra, that if a father teaches his son psukim, ein melamdei mishnah, he's not required to teach him mishnayos. And Rava says mikra. What does mikra mean? Zu Torah. This refers to the Torah. In other words, not Nevi'im and Ksuvim. He's not required l'chayru to teach him anything else, including mishnayos. So how can we say that Zvulun ben Don, that his grandfather taught him mikra, mishnah, v'talmud halachis, if the brisa clearly says that it's only on mikra? So the Gemara answers and says, "Because Zvulun ben Don, but like Zvulun ben Don. It's like Zvulun ben Don, but not Zvulun ben Don. Because Zvulun ben Don, it's like Zvulun ben Don. Shouldn't be avi aviv." That his grandfather taught him. But like Zvulun ben Don, but not like Zvulun ben Don, the ilu hasim mikra mishnah v'talmud halachas v'agadis. By Zvulun ben Don, his grandfather taught him mikra mishnayos, Talmud, halachas, and agadis. Ilu hacha, but the brisa that one is required to teach his son is mikra levad. This is only psukim. Fragli gemara v'avi aviv mi mechayev, is a grandfather obligated to teach his grandson Torah? But we learned in a brisa v'limatem meisim es b'neichem. The pasuk says, and you shall teach them to your son, which is mashma v'leis b'neichem, but not to your sons. The parasha says v'limatem meisim es b'neichem, only your sons. Now the brisa says umani mekayim by daita levanecha levanei vanecha. If so, how do I translate the pasuk but make them known to your sons and your sons' sons? So the brisa says, the pasuk is telling me, this b'nei Teda, whoever teaches his son Teda, that whoever teaches his son Teda gives him the credit as though he taught him and his sons until the end of all generations. So the Gemara answers that the Tana of this brisa, who da'amar ki haitana, is in accordance with the opinion of this Tana. Tanya, we learned in a brisa with the matam esim es b'neichem, and you shall teach them to your sons. Ainli ela b'neichem. From here, I learned that you have to teach your sons. B'nei b'neichem nolan. Where do I know that you have to teach your sons, your grandchildren? Tamalemer, the pasuk says, "V'adayt levanecha v'b'nei v'necha." And you have to make known to your sons and your sons' sons. Imkein matam lemer b'neichem. If so, why does the Torah say your sons? If it implies also your grandsons, b'neichem v'lei b'nei seichem, your sons but not your daughters. Rabbi Shimon ben Levi. Rabbi Shimon ben Levi says, "Kol hamalam this ben b'nei Teda ma'ila labakasav ki'ilu kibli mar Sinai." Whoever teaches his son Teda, it's as if he received the Teda from Har Sinai, from Mount Sinai. Shenamar, as the pasuk says, "V'adayt levanecha v'levnei v'necha," make them known to your sons and your sons' sons. And what does the pasuk say next to it? This is the day that you stood before Hashem at Har Chedev, which is Har Sinai. The Gemara tells a story that Reb Chia bar Abba he encountered Rabbi Shua ben Levi, and he saw that Rabbi Shua ben Levi had a covering on his head. And he brought his child, he put a yarmulke on his child's head, and he brought him to the Beis Medrash. So Rabbi Chia bar Abba asked him, "My kulahai, what are you doing? Why are you Why are you in such a hurry? And that, in other words, that you don't have time to dress yourself properly. So Amalei, he said, is it so insignificant what the Torah says, and make them known to your sons? And then the Torah says, the day when you stood before Hashem, your Hashem at Chediv, Mikan ve'elech. From this moment onwards, what happened? Rabbi would not taste meat. In other words, he would not eat anything. He wouldn't eat breakfast before he had read to his child and taught his child Torah. And Rabbi Bar Huna would not taste meat before he had brought his child to the Beis Medrash. He says, what's the pasuk? Vishinantam levanecha. You should teach them Torah. I'll take the vishinantam. Don't read it vishinanten. Ella vishilashtem. Rather, it means vishilashtem, which means you should make 3. Which means that when a person learns, he has to review and study again, dividing his studies into 3 parts. Gemara says, La'ilam yishalish adam shnesav. A person should divide his years into 3. Shlish b'mikra, shlish b'mishnah, shlish b'talmud. A third of his life he should learn Mikra, a third of his life he should learn Mishnayos, and a third of his life he should learn Gemara. For the Gemara, does a person know how long he's going to live? And for the Gemara, it's talking about the day, that a person's day should be divided into Mikra, Mishnah, and Talmud, divided into 3. The Fikach, therefore, the Gemara says, Nikro Yishainim Seifrim. Therefore, the first Chachamim were called Seifrim. Why? They would count all the letters of the Torah. They would say that the word, the Vav by Gochain, is half of the letters in the Torah. Darash, Chetzin Shel Tevis. The words Darash, this is the midpoint of the words in the Torah. V'hiz Galach, and the Torah says, then he shall be shaven. Shall Psukim, this is the half of the Psukim. Similarly, Yecharsemeno Chazer Miyar is Ayin the Yar, Chatzin Shel Tilim. The Ayin of the word Yar is half of Tilim. Burach Michab Ravin, Chatzin the Psukim. This pasuk is the midpoint in Tehillim in the Psukim. Boy, Rabbi Yosef asked the Shaila, Vav the Gochin, the Vav of the word Gochin, Mahai Gisa and Mahai Gisa, does it belong to this side or to this side? Which means, is it part of the first or the second half of the Torah? Amrulay, so the Chacham said to him, Nesi Sefer Torah v'nimninu. Let us bring a Sefer Torah and count the letters. Milei Amar Rabba Bar Chana, didn't Rabbi Bar Chana say in regards to another issue, that they did not move there until they brought a Sefer Torah and counted the letters? Amar Lahu, Rabbi Yosef said to them, Inhu bekin b'chaseres v'yaseres. They were experts in the deficiency and the lack of words, and therefore they could count the words precisely. Inu bekin b'chaseres v'yaseres, anam bekin, but we are not experts, and therefore we are not able to resolve the question, even if we're going to count the letters, because we're not bucky in how letters are written. It could be with a vav, without a vav, etc., etc. Why Rabbi Yosef asked the Shaila, Vizgalach, the Torah says, the word Vizgalach, Mahai Giso and Mahai Giso. When the Torah says Vizgalach, is it to this side or to this side? Abaya says, Psukim mi aleisu lemnino. So Abaya said, we can at least bring a Sefer Torah to count the Psukim. So Rabbi Yosef explained, the Psukim nami lepekinon, even when it comes to Psukim, we're not bucky. He said, he said, in Eretz Yisrael, they would divide the psukim, these psukim into 3 separate psukim. And basically, since we are not so bucky in the psukim, perhaps we're not dividing it properly. There's 5,888 psukim in the Torah. Have a Yasser Allah Tehillim Shmeina. Psukim has 8 more psukim than that. Chasimenu Divrei Yom Shmeina, and Divrei Yom has 8 fewer psukim than that. When the Torah says Vishinantam, what does it mean? You shall teach them Vishinantam diligently, which means that the Torah should be sharp and clear in your mouth. When somebody asks you Pshat and Torah or Halach and Torah, you should not stutter and be mesupek. Rather, a person has to have Torah so fluently And you should be able to tell him right away. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, "Emor l'chochma achesi at," say to wisdom, "You are my sister," which means that, just like Rashi explains, just like somebody's Bucky and a person's sister, he knows who his sister is, he doesn't have to think twice. So too, a person has to be very knowledgeable in Torah to identify a Torah very, very fluently. And then the Gemara says, brings a few psukim, koshem el tzbeisecha kosmim aluach libecha, bind them upon your fingers, you shall write them upon the tablets of your heart. The Torah says, you shall write them upon the tablets of your hearts, and as arrows in the hand of mighty man. And it says the sharp arrows of the mighty. And then the pasuk says, happy is the man who is full, his quiver is full of them. He should not be put to shame when they speak with the enemies of the gate. What does it mean, the enemies of the gates? Even a father and his son, or a rabbi and his student, who are engaged in learning Torah. They become enemies one to another due to the intensity of the Torah. And the Torah tells us that they do not leave the Beis Medrash until they love each other again. As the pasuk says, as vohev besufa, which means altikri besufa, don't read besufa, but rather ela besufa, rather at the end. In other words, at the conclusion of their machlekes, they become evim zeh. But we learned in the Brayso of samtem. What does the pasuk mean? And you shall place them. What does it mean with samtem? Means samtom. Means that you should read it as it's like a potion. The Torah is compared to a potion of life. This is compared to a person hit his son with a strong blow and placed a bandage on his blow. He told him, he said, my son, Kolzman, that this bandage is on your makkah, eat what you want, drink what you want. You could wash with cold water, hot water, and you don't have to be worried about anything. Don't be afraid that your heel won't wound. But if you're going to take off the bandage, then it will become very dangerous for you. So too the Eibusher says to the Eden, but I'm my son. I created Torah, and I created Torah as a potion. If a person is going to learn Torah and be involved in Torah, you will not be given over to the Yetzer Hara. Like it says, as it says, if you do well, shall it not be lifted? A person who engages in Torah lifts himself up well from the Yetzer Hara. But if a person is not going to learn Torah, you're going to be given over to the Yetzer Hara. Like it says, it says sin crouches at the door. Moreover, all the Yetzer Hara, the deliberation will be concerning you. Like it says, and to you it's going to desire. But if you wish, you could rule over the Yetzer Hara, as it says, and you rule over it. The Yetzer Hara is so difficult that even its creator, even the Eibusher, calls it bad. Like it says, as it says, a person's Yetzer Hara is evil from his youth. And Rabbi Yitzchak says, a person's Yetzer Hara renews itself every single day. As it says, rak ra kol hayem, as it says, only evil all day. So every single day the Yetzer Hara gets renews and gets worse and worse. Rabbi Shimon Levi says, a person's Yetzer Hara overpowers him every day and wants to kill him. Like it says, the wicked watches the righteous and seeks to kill him. If not for Hashem, if he didn't assist him with overcoming and battling the Yetzer Hara, then he would not overcome him. Like it says, Hashem will not leave him in his hand. We learned in the yeshiva of Rabbi Shmuel. B'ni, he says like this, my son, if the Yetzer Hara encounters you, then what do? Mashchol the Beis Medrash. It's a klal gadol in life that whenever the Yetzer Hara is bothering you, always bring him to go to Beis Medrash to learn. Now, Im Evan who, if the Yetzer Hara is stony mech, he will dissolve. Im Barsol, if he's iron, mispetzitz, he's going to break. Like it says, is it not my word like fire, says Hashem, and like hammer that breaks the rock in pieces? In other words, just as stone shatters a hammer, so too a person can overcome his Yetzer Hara, which is strong as iron, through Teda. Now, with regard to the second thing, Im Evan who, if it's stone, Nimeach will dissolve. Like it says, Halei kol tzomei l'chu l'mayim. It says, Halei, everyone who thirsts come to water. And it says that water wears the stone, which means that water, which is Teda, is stronger than the stone, stronger than the Yetzer Hara. Brisa says, Lahasi Ishay, that a father has commanded to marry a son to a woman. From where do I know this? Terry says, take wives and bear sons and daughters, and take wives for your sons, and give your daughters to men. Son, so he has the power. He can instruct him to marry a woman. As the man, he could be a shliach for his son. His daughter, it's not in his hand. Somebody has to want to marry his daughter. This is what it means to say. That a father has to give his daughter a dowry, and he should dress her and cover her with suitable clothing, so the men will jump and want to marry her. Brisa says that a father has to teach his son trade. From where do we know that a father has to teach his son business, a trade? Like it says, Amar Chizkiah says, Amar Kra, the pasuk says, enjoy life with the wife whom you love. Now, im isha mamashu. Now, what does this pasuk mean? If it's referring to an actual wife, so l'chayda, if it's referring to an actual wife, then one can learn as follows: the kashem shechay l'asiya ishi. Just as a father is obligated to marry his son to a woman, kachay l'lamdei umani. So too, his father has to teach his son trade. Now, if the wife, so that which is life. Now, if the wife mentioned in the Torah is not literal, but it's allegorical, so im tedahu, so if it's the teda, that one should explain the psukim as follows: Kashem shechay l'lamid teda, just like a person is obligated to teach his son teda, kachay l'lamid yumani, so too he's obligated to teach him trade. The Brisa says that some say af ashita benar, a father has to teach his son how to swim in a river. My time, what's the reason? The Gemara says it's a svara chiyusu. It is necessary for his life because this is potentially it's a life-saving skill. This says anybody who does not teach his son trade, listis teaches him to be a bandit. You think you're actually teaching him to be a robber? But it's like you're teaching him to be a bandit, to be a robber. What's the difference between Tanakama and Rabbi Yehuda? Both say that a father has to teach his son trade. So the difference is the agmane iska, in a case where the father teaches him to engage in business. According to the first Tana, this is enough, whereas Rabbi Yehuda maintains that not only business, but he actually has to teach him a profession, teach him a trade. The Mishnah said, Kol mitzvahs av ben, all mitzvahs of father with regard to his son, both men and women are obligated to perform them. My kol mitzvahs av ben, what does it mean, all mitzvahs of a father with regards to his son? If it means to say that all mitzvahs that a father is required to perform for his son, women are also required, but Tanya, we learned in the Brisa, but the pasuk says that a father is obligated with regards to his son to circumcise him and to redeem him. Which is mashma, the father, yes, he may like, but a mother is not obligated. She's not obligated to perform these mitzvahs for her son. So Rabbi Yehuda, this is Hachi Kamar, this is what he means to say. With regards to each mitzvah for the father that is upon the son to perform for his father, echad anashim both anashim and nashim are chayav. Tanin lahal the Tana Rabbanan, we learned that what the Brisa says with regards to ish, the pasuk says, ish aviv v'imay, a man shall fear his father and mother. So the Brisa says, Einli ela ish. From here I know that a woman, that from here I learned that a man is obligated to do this mitzvah. Ishi minayin, from where do I know that a woman is obligated as well? So the Gemara says, Kishu aimer tira'u, when it says tira'u, it means, harikan shnaim, it means the father and the mother. That both a man and a woman are mechuyev to fear. So why does the Torah say a man? So the Gemara answers and says, Ish sibik bi'adil aseis. In the case of a man, it's in his power to perform this mitzvah. Isha ein sipik b'yadel aseis. in regards to a woman, it's not always in her power to perform this mitzvah. Because she's under the authority of another person, her husband. Because she's obligated to her husband as a balabasta, so she's not always able to find time for her parents. Is Garsha, he says that if a woman is divorced, Shneim Shavim, both of them, side the daughter and the son, are equal with regards to fearing and honoring the father and the mother. We learned in our Brisa, the Torah says, honor your father and your mother. And the Torah says also, you have to honor Hashem with your wealth. The Torah equates the honor of one's father and mother to the honor of Hashem. That it's like honoring Hashem. The pasuk says a man shall fear his father and mother. And it says you shall fear Hashem, your Hashem, and serve him. The Torah equates the fear of one's father and mother to the fear of Hashem. Now, likewise, it says a person who curses his father or his mother shall be put to death. The Torah says whoever curses his Hashem shall bear his sin. The Torah equates, in other words, cursing of one's father and mother to the cursing of Hashem. With regards to hitting, if God forbid somebody hits their father and their mother, which al pi halacha he receives malchus or capital punishment from the Beis Din, so certainly this is not shaykh to say by Hashem. So too in regards to sheshloshin shutafin, three of them are partners in the creation. Famous thing, there are three partners in forming of a person. Hashem, the father and the mother. So when a person honors his father and mother, so the Torah ascribes credit to them, and Hashem says, as if I dwelt between them, and they honor me as well. Okay, Tanya, we learned in the Brisa, the last thing. Rabbi says, famous thing, it's revealed and known before Hashem, who spoke, and the world came to be, that a son honors his mother more than his father. Why? Because the mother persuades him with many statements and gives her encouragement, like Rashi says, so and doesn't treat him harshly. Therefore, Therefore, since naturally the son honors the mother more, the Torah proceeds to mention the honor to one's father before the mother. It's known naturally that a son fears his father more than the mother, because a father teaches his son Torah. Therefore, the Torah proceeded to mention the fear of the mother before the mention of the fear of the father.